Hello and welcome to the More Cheese, Less Whiskers.com podcast. My name is Dean Jackson, and today we have John Blake all the way from Perth, Australia, which has the lucky distinction of being the most populated, how do we describe it? The most populated, isolated city in the world, all the way on the far end of Australia. And the good news is that Blake has built a really nice business helping businesses crack their marketing codes. And we had a really great conversation about the opportunity that he has to, instead of doing original work all the time, finding new clients, doing a new project, continuing to grow and raising income by either doing more work or raising prices and finding higher and higher value clients. We talked about this idea of getting leverage from the work that he's already done or doing work one time that he can syndicate to other businesses all over Australia. So we had a really great conversation because this is a subject that's really near and dear to my heart, something that I have built a lot of my career on is creating what I call scale ready algorithms to crack a code and then take it out all the way across the country to local businesses that can use that same strategy again and again. So I really enjoyed this conversation. I think you'll get a lot out of it, especially if you're someone that's doing a lot of original work that could have some value to it. So listen in. John Blake.
G'day, Dean. How you going?
I am so good. How are you?
I'm going well.
Oh, there we go. So, I'm excited to finally get to hatch some evil schemes here with you.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah, why don't you kind of tell me what's going on and what kind of evil schemes we can hatch here?
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I have a consulting business. I guess you might call it a traditional consulting business where I'll talk to a business owner. I'll uncover the possibility of helping them primarily with the first and foremost with their sales process, and then I guess as a secondary thing that I do for people is I have like a offline, like a direct mail strategy that I help different businesses to implement to make a direct play to their sort of dream clients that they aren't typically getting through their normal day-to-day type marketing.
I gotcha. Okay.
Everyone's got a funnel. They've got clients that come to them through their funnels, referrals and organic sort of traffic. But they also have a list of people that they'd love to work with that aren't necessarily beating a path to their door. And I've got a way that they can show up using, which I'm sure you're familiar with, very similar strategy to what Dan Kennedy does with the shock and awe pack, only it's
right.
Just sort of implemented slightly differently. But it's primarily helping them to create a sales process from the initial inquiry that they get into their business to where the client comes on board, such that they maximise the conversions from inquiry into paying client, and bring them in at the highest fees possible, maximising the value of that particular opportunity.
Awesome. So are you mostly doing helping with lead conversion or lead generation? What's the
mostly lead conversion?
Okay.
Yeah, but some people it's lead generation with the pack, but it's mostly conversion.
Okay. And what kinds of businesses? Is it a specific type of business or?
Well, here's the thing. I have never been particularly niched. I guess if you were to put a broad if you were to put a broad brushstroke on it, it would be service based. So at the moment, I've got a company that sells power reduction. Got another company that sells they're like a mining services company that locate underground power cables and gas and electricity.
Okay.
I've got one retail client I'm working with. I've got a PT. I've got another consulting business, an accounting practice, bathroom renovation company. So there's really no particular niche per se, other than I've probably tended to gravitate more toward, service-based type businesses.
So where's the opportunity here? Is it in getting more people to help, or getting or improving that process, or what are you focused on?
Well, the thing I've realised is that if I was to narrow down a niche, that I think it would be the one thing that would make life a lot easier.
Okay.
Because I'm sort of really dealing with such a broad base of people, and
Sure.
I've actually had the experience of helping some of my clients who are particularly niched, and I've just found that creating marketing for them and helping them scale their business becomes a lot easier.
Everything's easier when you've selected the right target audience.
Yeah, exactly.
It's absolutely true. I mean, that's why it's profit activator number one, right?
Exactly.
Select a single target market.
And I guess maybe because I live in a like Perth I know that you've been to Sydney, but Perth in Australia is the most remote city of its size in the world.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I can't select a niche. But yeah, that's the bit that I've always sort of struggled with.
Where are your clients all spread out all over the place, or are they mostly in Perth?
No, they're mostly in Perth. I do have some East Coast, based clients, and I can certainly deal with people remotely. I've done that, and I am doing that. So yeah.
So, do you have anything that, we start to look at some different models for how you could scale this or do this, and the thing about local, like doing everything right there in Perth, is there any opportunity to syndicate what you're doing? I don't know whether you've heard me talk about that before. The idea of you've cracked the code for one particular local business, and you can then scale that to other independent kind of local businesses that do the same thing all over the place. Because part of the thing is once you crack the code, it's kind of it's easier to scale something rather than having to do original work each time, right? Trying to come up with the package that's going to work. But could you take and do the same thing in Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane and all the other places?
Yeah, of course, easily.
Mm-hmm. And have you done anything like that, or have you got anything that could work for that?
Well, I've done work with clients in all over Australia, but I just haven't ever really settled upon a particular niche per se, or a particular type of business. So if I look
maximize,
if I look at all of the clients I've dealt with in the last, say, 6 years, there's 104. So I guess you could say I've cracked the code 104 times.
Right, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is that's part of the thing, is that what that limits you is that you cracked the code, and now you're on to the next one, and you have to invest just as much time and energy to crack the code rather than cracking the code once and then licensing that cracked code to somebody else. See, part of the thing is that when you can get a result, that's been one of the magic formulas that I've kind of relied on. It kind of creates a really nice way to scale without having to continue to do original work. When you develop a process or a system or a way to provide a result for somebody, and that result is duplicatable, that you can do it again, then that has value, right? The value of the result is still the value of the result, regardless of, it just doesn't take you as long to get it now. And so so the margins, the profitability on being able to create a result for somebody is it's really exciting that way, because you've got and you could show somebody else how to get that result.
Yep.
And it's really interesting if you pick a vertical, if you pick a market like that has that works on almost like a franchise prototype kind of model, where it could work in territories of 20 or 50 or 100,000 people kind of thing. There, even in a place like Australia, there's a lot of opportunity for something like that,
Yeah.
And that's kind of the interesting thing. Like you've cracked the code 104 different ways, and there's an interesting thing of being able to, to look at and create results that you can with 100% eye on duplicating it all over the country.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I look down the list, the ones that I would, mark as being enthusiasts, they're, with whoever you work with, there are people that, that you do your work and then it comes to its sort of natural end and then you move on.
Yeah.
And then there's others that would be a zealot for you, that would refer, that if you rang them again, they'd do more with you and all the rest of it. The vast majority of them would have some sort of a service-based / sort of consulting type category that you could assign to it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Like if you were to take, knowing what you know kind of so far in the conversation, which of the 104, if you can think of a few, would be ones that would maybe fit that model, that you've got confidence that you could go into that market and create a result?
There's a couple in the building services type category. So people who supply like flooring or curtains or stone bench tops or so there's a couple of those that I've done really well with. There's a lady that has been a client for a long time who has like a debt collection business.
That's a pretty good lot of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it certainly helped her. She grew her business by 600% within a couple of years. So that was
nice.
Pretty exciting.
Now, that model, whatever you created for her, would that be something that that another debt collection business would be interested in?
Yeah, potentially.
And when you look at that,
if they didn't have all that in place already,
right? Yeah, part of the thing, like when you look at being able to create a result for somebody, is almost like, if you could take it all the way kind of thing and be the before unit for somebody, where if they could, especially if you can create something that generates the leads and converts them and could install that in their business, that's a pretty, really great place to come from,
Yeah.
And you look at you look at even where you are, and you kind of have that lens of a local business serving local clients, that business would be duplicated in in all the other cities of the same size or even smaller,
Yeah.
That's kind of that's an amazing model, in that there's so much opportunity that way.
So do you mean essentially creating the same business but just duplicating it across all the different states?
Exactly. So part of the thing, one of the things that I've done that's created a wonderful foundation is is syndicating things in the real estate world, right? So if I started out as a real estate agent, and I, like most real estate agents, was making cold calls, right? I would call people on the phone, and then when I discovered direct response and that I could put words on a postcard or words on an ad that would get people to call me, that was just so much freedom. And so I put together a guide to Halton Hills real estate prices, which is where I live. And that was like a total game changer for me. I never had to make another cold call. People would call me when they were thinking about buying a house in Halton Hills, and I would stay in touch with them, and then they would come and buy homes. And then I licensed that system to 40 different real estate agents all around Toronto. And I did a guide called 40 Great Places to Live Within an Hour of the City. And it was a pure syndication. I mean, I took the exact system that I had created, and I set it up exactly for them in those 40 individual markets. And that was a really great business. And then since then, we've gone on and built a huge coaching organization that licensed all of that stuff to thousands of real estate agents all over North America. And that, once you crack the code, the great thing is that the scaling of it is delegatable. The scaling of it is now somebody doesn't have to know how to actually crack the code. They just have the teacher's edition, right? They have the cracked code to teach somebody. And it's a really interesting thing. There's a guy in the States here called Wyatt Woodsmall. I don't know if you've ever heard that name before. Do you know about Wyatt? Yeah. So
certainly.
Wyatt, is one of the
NLP guys,
authorities on NLP. Yeah, he's one of the original guys. And when people read about Tony Robbins going in and working with the military to lower their training program for their marksman program, it was actually Wyatt that did that with him. Wyatt's what they call a modeler. And Wyatt said something that was really profound he's been a good friend of Eben Pagan and I for quite some time, 20 years.
Yeah.
And so he said that there are two types of challenges that we face as entrepreneurs. There's what he says are technical challenges, meaning that the answer is known and you just need to know how to do it. And there are adaptive challenges where nobody's ever done it yet and you need to figure something out, right? There's no ready-made solution. So the adaptive challenge is what we're attracted to as entrepreneurs. That's when you're taking your skills, your ideas, and you're applying them to a new, you've done it 104 times. You've taken your adaptive skill of cracking this code and you've adapted it 104 different ways. Well, each one of those 104 that you've done now is laid out, if you've done it with some forethought, in a way that is a technical challenge that you could show somebody how to get that result. And so that's where that's where the real scaling comes, because right now you're limited by your availability and the time that it takes you to crack the code, right? And you're the only one that knows how to do it. You're the adaptive, problem solver, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you're just thinking of, I'm going to take this adaptive work that I've done, but I'm not going to move on to the next one until I package this up in a way that I could show somebody how to take this one thing and spread that all over. And it's it's really interesting because typically I find that the people who like to crack the codes are not the same personality as the person who likes to spread the code, And that's, I think, where you run into the thing that once you've solved the puzzle, you're not as excited about doing it again, because then it's just like, right? I get it that you're an entrepreneur. But the thing is that now it's like the ultimate freedom is at least you want to leave something in your wake that is going to continue on, that right now, unless you do that, you're kind of doomed to continue to just seek new projects, right? Because you're doing custom drapes every time you're, I had a friend whose father owned a drape factory, and they would, they would make, where they would make all their money is on the standardized sizes. They would make drapes and then they would mass produce them versus making custom drapes where you could only make it once, kind of thing,
Yeah, I get it.
And so
one of my clients that I've helped does blinds and curtains. So yeah, I get it.
Okay, great. Yeah. And so, you look at that and it's like, if they're doing custom blinds and curtains, they're doing all that work, but they need to find people who want to get blinds and curtains, right? And so if you were able to help them with that process of finding people who want to get blinds and curtains, you've got in your hand now something that every person that does blinds and curtains all over Australia would be completely excited about getting their hands on.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of that's a really exciting kind of opportunity, when you really start to think that way, that you've got something that becomes an asset that will continue to that continues to grow, And believe it or not, it's hard as entrepreneurs to think that anybody would want to just stick with that one thing, But there are people that's what they love. They want to have one thing, they want to know exactly what they're doing, and they just want to execute. And they get joy out of installing this successfully again and again and again and again.
So they can't figure
it out, though, but they can't figure it out. Right.
Yeah. The code spreaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd be, just in terms of what this would look like, it would be finding somebody almost, as I think you alluded to, as almost like a franchise model.
Yes, that's exactly.
Or syndicate the actual process.
Yes. Because I get the feeling that that wouldn't be, if I told you, well, pick one and then let's just dedicate the next 2 years of your life to just spreading the word about that one. We're going to take that all over Australia. That's not as exciting to you as continuing to crack the code, you know?
Which is like, because it's like, you do the thing that you most want to do. So
that's exactly right. Yeah.
It's almost like, regardless of what sort of business you've got, butcher, baker, or candlestick maker, it's like, I can help you. I can help you sell more stuff in there.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like you're, I've been having a lot of, I've used the words scale ready algorithm as what I end up creating, right? That's what I do, is I create scale ready algorithms. I crack a code one time, and then it's all got the opportunity to be used again and again and again. And I was thinking, having conversations about this, that in a lot of ways, a hit song is a scale ready algorithm. And it's fascinating to me. Do you know who Max Martin is? Have you heard that name?
No.
Okay, so
I'm a music enthusiast, so now you've really got me interested.
Okay, perfect. Well, in all time, do you have is Billboard an international thing? The Billboard charts for music, like the number one songs?
I've certainly heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, so Billboard is like the authority rate number one songs. Okay, so there's on the list of people in history who have written songs that have gone to number one on the charts. The list goes Paul McCartney, John Lennon, Max Martin, and nobody's ever heard of Max Martin. Right? Even music enthusiasts don't really know who Max Martin is. But Max Martin is this 45-year-old Swedish guy who writes every song on the radio, basically. I mean, he's written, starting with Ace of Base, and then all the way through all the boy bands, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, Pink, Kelly Clarkson, Bon Jovi, the list goes on and on and on. Justin Timberlake, all these, he's written 23 number one songs. And he just stays there in Sweden and writes the songs, and then the artist takes that scale ready algorithm and they launch it out into the world. It's all over the radio. They tour for 18 months or 2 years on the back of this scale ready algorithm. They go out and take that all over the world. Meanwhile, once Max Martin's written the song and recorded it, produced it with them, he's back in the studio with the next person. He's not going out performing. Nobody knows him. You couldn't pick him out of a lineup. And he's one of the most successful and probably one of the richest people in the entire music industry.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's a pretty fascinating thing. There's actually a book about it, about his method, but he's got a whole hit factory kind of set up there in Sweden, and the process of how they create the hits is kind of outlined there, So you look at what you could. It's kind of an amazing, interesting story too, right? Like you thinking there in Perth is the equivalent of Max Martin being in Sweden, right? As far away from the epicenter of the music world as you could imagine.
Yeah,
but
really.
for that to be that hub, right? Like for Perth to be the business center of these scale-ready algorithms coming out all over Australia is a pretty fascinating thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you look at that, you know, I know you were kind of struggling with like how to narrow it down to a single target market. And that maybe could be part of it, you know, is to at least think about it as if you look right there in Perth, or with the companies that you've worked with, you know, and you think about the ones that would have that kind of scale ready ability. Like you think about, have you done any work with dentists, or have you done any work with chiropractors, or has it been home services businesses, financial advisors? You think about all of the things. Like if you were just to sit and look through the yellow pages or the business listings and just kind of think, do they have one of these in Melbourne? And is there one of these in Sydney? You know?
Yeah.
That's an indication, because I get the feeling that you could crack any kind of code, right? And that you can apply. That's where you get the juice, is trying to apply what you know to different. You adapt it to fit whatever the business is, right? Like you've done it 104 times, but I would bet that some percentage, some more than half of the work was really a derivative of your model of what you know how to do. You know, it's not 104.
Yeah, it's really only 20% that's nuanced.
Well, that's exactly right. So there you go.
Yeah.
And now, so imagine, that you take that and now get some real leverage on it and do it, with a licensing kind of arrangement, or a way of getting that result on a recurring basis. That can set up some recurring revenue opportunity for you,
So in terms of who I would license that to, it would be license it to a business, or license it to a person that's going to sell to a business, like somebody that I've already done it with over here.
A little of both, even depending on what you want. Whether you have access to, or you want to, because then the fun thing is that you can still get your adaptive challenge of figuring out, if I were, it's almost like your own client in a way, right? For that, when you've cracked the code, now you become your own client and say, if I wanted to crack the code on how to spread this to all the financial advisors or all the roofing companies or all the things, how would I approach that? And then you teach somebody that system to go out and run that,
Yeah.
Part of it is that the greatest asset that you have is you have access to your code cracking ability at cost for free.
Yep.
Right? And so you want to start thinking about that. It's almost like you start thinking about your intellectual capital as a venture capitalist, and investing in yourself.
Yep.
So you're investing in work that you're not getting paid for by somebody else, but you're building an asset that is going to bring in money while you're not working. If we took 100% of your income in the last 12 months, what percentage of your income was what I'll call unearned income? Unearned meaning that it didn't require any of your time. It came from royalties, it came from licensing, it came from recurring. Zero, exactly. And there's the thing, right? Like this is a big shift. This is the shift that goes from 250,000 to $1 million. You can't. It's very difficult to get to $1 million on just doing more of what you're doing. You know.
I've certainly noticed that.
Yeah, and it's true, right? I mean, and that's part of the thing. Is because you're doing custom drapes.
Yeah.
So once you license stuff up, once you package stuff up to scale, that's really a cool opportunity, And a good place to look is even to think about what are the top franchise businesses in Australia already, because that's where you can then have a distribution model, where you can work with one franchise and then they would be thrilled to have that result deployed to their own network,
Yeah.
So that way you don't have to go out and find the individual ones. You find someone who's already got the distribution network. And they're already trying to figure out, how do we increase their business? How do we help our franchisees make more money, convert more leads? And if you work with, because the whole franchise model is set up on that basis, that it's a duplicatable operating system. But what most franchises don't have is a duplicatable before unit or after unit system. Right? Most franchises are, here's how you run the business, and you get the branding and all that stuff is set up. So you're licensing the during unit, right? The ability to do the result, and not so much the before unit and the after unit.
And often they have some sort of sales system in there, but it's often not very good.
Right, exactly, because it's an afterthought.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the people who are interested in setting up franchises are largely operational people.
Yeah.
Right. They like to set up systems. They would be follow-throughs, on Colby. Those are the kinds of people who that creating a franchise is exciting too. And the people who buy a franchise are people who like follow checklists, They're not good at creating checklists, but they like to follow them. It's like, just tell me what to do. I can operate this. And so they look for the same thing. They look for the ability to have a marketing system that they could just follow through,
Yeah. The code spreader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what of the 104, what ones kind of pop out that might be suitable for something like that?
Well, there's certainly a couple of building. There's 3 building services ones.
Mm-hmm.
So companies that are selling to builders.
Mm-hmm.
There's some financial services and management consulting ones that you would probably fit into a similar type category.
Yeah.
certainly some retail. I mean, I've done heaps of retail over the years.
Oh, great. See, that's now you're getting to the ones where, like, the greatest scale, when you get to the ones that could work in the smallest geographic area, like if you get something that could work in an area of 50,000 people, that's a really great, you got an amazing system then,
So when you say 50,000 people, what do you mean?
Well, so for instance, some businesses are, serve a broader area, like
Yep.
when you look at but you look at a coffee shop or a retail store or a chiropractor or a dentist or any of those, that they're not a gym or a personal trainer or any of those things. If they're in a market of 50,000 people, that radius is probably going to be more than enough for them to find all the people that they could possibly work with,
So you're sort of going more, like thinking more of it from an area exclusive type thing?
Yeah, that's certainly, that's a fantastic, that's what adapts itself mostly to the scale ready algorithm, that's what adapts itself, is that you can, you look at it, somebody like a debt collection service, like you could imagine that would have a broader area, right? Like they may serve national clients, and there's going to be some overlap, that they're competing for the same business, but an auto body shop in a local area is not going to be competing with somebody in Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane. And so you start to look at what types of businesses are scalable and which ones are duplicatable, and there's a difference. But scalable means you could stay where you are and scale out the ability to operate, kind of thing, But but scaling can also involve duplicating. Like if you have a successful coffee shop, you can start another one and another one and another one, right? Starbucks, McDonald's, all the restaurant type of ones they're spread out by geography. Dentists, anybody where the business, the product or service of the business is going to be consumed locally, is a really great candidate for that. And part of the thing, when you start to think like this, that opens up, that now you're able to work with businesses that otherwise wouldn't be able to afford to work with you individually, right? Like you're at a place where you're looking for sort of bigger clients because they can afford whatever fees you charge, right? Like you're not going to go into a local retail shop and then be able to afford the fees that you would charge to work with a local.
No,
one,
it doesn't
right?
stack up. Not for a single door.
Right. But you could have amazing results with that. And that's where your access to you at cost or for free is a advantage, because you can over-invest in what would seem like one business that can't afford to pay for the amount of attention and stuff that you do for them. But that where the money is being made is in the 1,000 people that you license what you've discovered to. Right? Or the 100 people or whatever it is.
Sorry,
you look at.
So what you're saying is I could overinvest in one business, crack the code, and then scale that to
but you maybe
like
look
that.
at it that if you create an operating system for a local business that increases their revenue by six figures, right? Which would be a reasonable thing for a small local business, right? You could certainly go in and do something like that. Now, you then can take 100 of those businesses all over Australia and license that to them for $500 a month. That's a $50,000 a month unit of your business, right? That doesn't require, that's not you doing original work.
No.
Kind of exciting when you start to think like that, you know?
Definitely. I've never, I've been in this business for 12 years now, like six, 7 on my own, and then 6, 7 with a partner prior to that. And, I've never, we were looking at doing the franchising thing at one point, but it wasn't, there's so many different ways of slicing this, but it wasn't exactly what we're talking about right now.
Mm-hmm. So what's that stimulating for you right now? Like what's your thought path on it? Explain it back to me, like what you're thinking here.
It's it's sort of activated a part of my brain that I don't think I've ever really accessed before, quite frankly.
Right. Yeah.
I think I really have been very myopic in terms of the way that I've looked at my business.
You're a custom drape maker, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, and a great custom drape maker, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's I think you kind of nailed it. And within about sort of 10 minutes of our conversation, you were like, you get the excitement from cracking the code.
Yeah,
and
I recognize it because I'm one of you. I'm you. I'm just saying that's the truth. That's what it is.
Yeah. And I think that I've even, as I think I can recall clients that I've been working with, and I get to a stage where I've sort of done my thing, and they're getting good results and all the rest of it. And it's like, well, I'm bored now. I want to go
right. Right.
I want to go do something else now. Help somebody else do something different. It's got a different challenge to it.
I get it. And so that's the thing is you just need to find artists who can take that out and and scale it. You need somebody to go out and sing your songs. Spread the songs all over Australia. And maybe over to New Zealand.
What's that?
And maybe even sneak over to New Zealand.
Yeah, well, I've been to New Zealand quite a lot on business over the years. In fact, I've just actually done a project, or just about to kick a project off with a national retailer. Deal's already done, so I can't really talk about any of this stuff with them.
Right.
But yeah, I'm just about to kick off with a national retailer, which is the first retail stuff I've done for ages. So
nice.
But they need plenty of help, but I'd sort of steered away from them a bit because I was like, there's a lot of downward pressure on retail over here because of the online thing, and not many of them have got any money, but they've probably got $500 a month.
Right, that's exactly right. Yeah,
for some sort of a leverage type system that's done and is proven.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all very exciting. I mean, once you start thinking about this now, it's like you've got all that all that stuff going. Have have you read the E-Myth, Michael
Yes.
Gerber's book? Yeah. So, that's where that planted that seed for me. When I first read it almost 30 years ago now, I mean, when that book first came, I read that book in 1990. Which really, that was a game changer for me. That was a vector changer, that I really got that concept of the duplicatable model on a really, really deep level. And I started everything I did. I started getting it to where it could be duplicated 5,000 times. That was my mantra, But in order to do that too, you have to be willing to invest time that you're not getting paid for, right? Like you're used to, when you're working, when that code cracking machine is fired up, you're getting paid for it, right? It's somebody's sponsoring the running of the machine,
Right.
And what I was saying, that you've got the greatest asset you have is that you own the machine, and you can fire it up for yourself, The output.
Sorry, the what?
The output, that's the thing, is you can, once you figure out how to do it, and you can show somebody else how to get that result. I think we're going to look back at this is going to be a pivotal moment for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's a few, missing pieces just in terms of what those type arrangements, would look like from a business perspective, from an offer perspective, and all those type of things.
Yeah.
But
that's your favorite thing. That's a new thing for you to figure out. Right? I mean, no, that's what I'm saying. No, but
it's both adaptive and technical.
Right.
Sure,
I mean, but you got to worry. The first thing you have to worry about is, can you get the result, and can you do it again? And once you're able to get the result in a way that you can get it again, that you're going to figure out. Then you're hiring yourself. Then you become your own client, and you say, hey, I've got this thing, and it would be great for these people. How can I get the word out to them? And then you start cracking the code to help them crack the code.
Yeah.
You're going to love it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all very exciting.
It is. It's just a classic that you pretty much nailed it within the first 10 minutes.
Well, that's only because I'm there, only because I'm you. I mean, that's I'm the same thing, that's part of the great thing about doing More Cheese, Less Whiskers is that, I get to crack new codes all the time, right? That's what these are. But I've got a framework, right? But I've got a framework. The 8 profit activators are the lens that I'm looking at all of this, and before, during, after. So I've got a fixed framework that I'm running all these different businesses through.
Mario's true,
and that's the thing. I think when you look at it, if you thought about it, you have a fixed framework too. That makes up the 80% of what you do the same for all of these businesses, and maybe you just haven't thought about it or formalized what that actual, what that context is. But that's the key, to packaging up all these solutions.
Yeah. Well, look, I guess the upshot for me, because I'm mindful of the time factor, but the upshot for me is really to look a lot closer at this list of 104 people and really looking at, what was the most definitive. I made a couple of notes there. One which jumps out at me is, who would rehire me tomorrow if I gave them a call right now? If I gave them a call tomorrow, who would say, "Oh yeah, God, yeah, come back."
Yes, yeah.
We can always do with more of what you did, or the result that you created for us was such that we'd have you back any time, or
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah,
that's
really
the first. That's the first steps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thanks for having me on, Dean. I very much appreciate it, and it was great chatting to you too. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. I'll send you a note when we post it up.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Well, you enjoy the rest of your Friday, and
yeah, and you're going to be up all night. You're not going to be able to go to sleep now. You got notes to write. Yeah, I got things to crack.
Exactly.
I love it.
And there we have it. Another great episode. I really enjoyed that conversation with John. And if you're listening right now and you're in a situation where you can resonate with that you're hearing something of yourself, that you're doing original work, but you may have something that could be syndicated, I think I'd like to do a little series on syndication. So I would encourage you to go to morecheeselesswhiskers.com. First of all, you can download a copy of the More Cheese, Less Whiskers book and click on the Be a Guest button and tell me about the type of syndication that you might have an opportunity to do, or that you're interested in discussing that, because I think that there are a lot of people who are really great at what they do. They're really great at cracking codes, and they are not capitalizing on the real value of what that could be. I'd like to see where this could go. So go to morecheeselesswhiskers.com and let's have a conversation about it. If you want to find out how your business is being either slowed or buoyed by the 8 profit activators, go check out profitactivatorscore.com. And we've got a scorecard that you can see where the big opportunity for the 8 profit activators is in your business. So those are some good homework assignments for this week, and I will talk to you next time.